All right, welcome to the show, Julie.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so I met you on Facebook. You were like one of our first customers. You had got a hoodie from us, and I was
Yes.
like, cool, cool, okay, cool. And then, so tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm originally from here. I was born and raised here. I went to Crockett and then I went to Martin and then I went to Miller. So kind of around that neighborhood, a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Most of my family is based in Molina. And so that's been something like being able to now work with those same kiddos as I work at the West Oso Junior High. Um, and so I guess a little bit of my background is I'm the youngest. I have
mm-hmm.
two older siblings, both boys,
Mm-hmm.
and they're 10 and 12 years older than me. So I was like way behind. Um, and so that was an experience too, just growing up with boys. My mom working, several jobs. Um, and so I guess the idea of college, just that in general, nobody before me had gone. Um, and so I didn't even, that wasn't even a thought really, I'll be honest with you, until I was a senior. I was working at Luby's and I hated my life. And
Mm-hmm.
it was only a weekend job and I still was miserable. I think that was like the turning moment where I was like, okay, you have to do something different. So I applied to UTSA. It was the only college I applied to. I figured that was far enough away for me to experience a real college, but also
Mm-hmm.
close enough for my mom to come to me. Um, and so I went there, and I originally went in as an English major. I thought I wanted to be an English teacher. I had it all written out.
Mm-hmm.
And midway, maybe my sophomore year, I got involved in the Mexican American Studies Student Organization, which is the acronym is MASL.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just opened up my eyes on me as a person, as a female of color, as something that I always kind of knew, but never really identified with it. Having a father from Mexico, having a mom from here, being very much Mexican American, like majority of us are. I
Right.
don't think I was really in tune with myself. And it took me having to go to college and meeting the right people that were advocates for people like myself, first generation students, for me to really feel like, wow, this is like really life changing. How do I get to do something like this too and advocate for the community? So that same year, I changed my major from English to Mexican American Studies, which is actually what I ended up getting my bachelor's in.
Wow.
Um, so that was pretty interesting because I had never known anybody around me that had a degree in that. And I, of course, had those conversations like, oh, what am I going to do with that? Do I still want to go into education? San
Mm-hmm.
Antonio is a very big, um, they're very much on the rise of ethnic studies and Latinx studies. So they have a lot of teachers that have their bachelor's in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that wasn't probably going to be something that I could find as easily here back home. And I
Mm-hmm.
went back and forth as far as like, do I want to go back home? Do I not want to go back home? And, I had a lot of friends there, but the truth is, like, I've always been connected here. My whole family is rooted here. And I just thought it was what was best for me at the time. And so I ended up getting basically a tutoring job here at Westoso pretty much right away.
Mm-hmm.
And it originally was supposed to be just strictly for the English department, and I was supposed to just help those kids that hadn't passed the STAR test. But it somehow has turned into me getting really involved with the ESL kids, which is English second language.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a crazy 3 years, but it's been really awesome getting to work in on with them on their telpas writing. So that's just essentially having them practice their English. And I am not in any, shape or form a professional. My first language is English. And,
Mm-hmm.
I used to get called a pocho a lot, And so I didn't even know what that was till I was like 18. And it took one of my friends from the MOS program to call me that. And I was like, what is and so I really took it upon myself to learn and to not be so embarrassed. That's really what it's always been. I didn't want to sound silly. I didn't want to mess up on a word or like what's that joke on like TikTok that's like, how do you say embarrassed in Spanish? And it's like people say embarazado or something, and that's like pregnant. Like that's the embarazado kid like that a lot of us feel.
Mm,
But yeah, and so that's pretty much what it is right now currently. And then I took a year off from school, just was strictly working. Then decided that I wanted to go in the social work field, which again, haven't had anybody around me that kind of worked in that field, except for one of my cousins. She got her bachelor's in sociology from Texas Tech. So she was actually the first person I saw go to college outside of my immediate family.
mm,
And she works in the mental health field. And so we've had this conversation several times with counseling and social work. People get
mm.
they overlap, very much so.
Right.
But I ended up going the social work field, and I did that in Kingsville. So I was
Oh,
commuting back and forth this time because I was already back home.
mhm.
That took me 2 years, and I ended up finishing that degree last May, actually. So almost a year now.
Awesome. And that's a master's degree, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Master's degree in social work. So, are you applying now, or how does that work? Like, are you trying to get into the social work field?
Yes. So for the last few months, I've thought about doing school social work, right? So a school is like a setting that I'm very comfortable in.
Hmm.
And they recently opened up a position there at the school that I work at.
Right.
Excuse me.
Awesome.
But, I every day it changes. Some days I want to work in like a trafficking kids shelter.
Hmm.
Sometimes I want to go to the border and work with those, students, those kids. And some days I want to work at the Pride Center. So I wish I could tell you I have a definite population that I know I want to work with and I
Right.
want to do this long term. But, I guess at 26, like I'm still figuring that out. And I guess the only thing I know that is true that still holds true is like I just want to help people, but I still haven't figured out exactly, do I want to get out of my comfort zone or do I not want to do that quite yet?
Wow, that's very interesting. It seems like you just care about people in general, and there's a wide range of people in that field.
Yes, yes. I think it's just, they say, right, in your programs and these trainings you go to, right? You can't go into this field thinking you can save everybody, right? Like
Mm,
that's the truth. But I think a lot of us kind of gravitate towards that field from
mm.
like past trauma, whatever it may be, like minimal or not minimal.
Yeah.
However you define that, it's kind of just being a voice for the voiceless, which is a lot of people do in a way, whether it's social work or not. Like a lot of
Mm,
us are advocates for a lot of things that we believe in, and so
mhm.
that is really important to me for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So, what do you think it's even more so in spaces of color?
I think that spaces of color, I mean, even going back to college, right? Like
Mhm,
there was a lot of times where I'll be honest, I was in a room with people, the majority were not people of color.
mhm.
And, being from here, being from the West Side, I
Yeah.
did not, I never experienced that. Everyone looked like me. I never had a moment where I was like, wow, was I belittled here? Or did
Yeah.
here? Or, and so I found myself constantly feeling like I was barely catching up to this level
Uh,
and people around me were here. And I mean, it could have been a combination of things, maybe like their resources that they had.
right.
I'm not going to sit here and say like money is everything. I understand that. Like someone that has enough ganas is going to do something whether they were tutored or not. But
Yeah.
I do feel like spaces of color is such a just allowing those conversations of mental health, right? So like I say this to my mom all the time, like me and you talk a lot about these like taboo conversations, right?
Mhm,
Conversations as simple as safe sex practices. These are things that like you don't talk about.
mhm,
Talking about depression and anxiety, that's not a form of laziness,
mm.
that's a real thing, and just justifying those things and connecting it to our family.
Yeah.
And so I really hope that really close to me because I had a brother who was in prison, and
Mhm,
even to this day he did 10 years.
mhm. Wow.
And even to this day, like we're super close, but there's a lot of things we've never discussed, and it's more so from his end, and I respect that enough.
Mhm,
But I guess I feel like if someone would have just allowed him the space to
mhm.
talk, even just talk, would things have been different?
Wow.
And so, of course, I build all these things off of my own experiences, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it makes you push that much harder just to open up those doors and to give everyone the equal opportunity, and also just to know, like, the first gen students, like, they're not alone. There's so many of us trying to navigate through those waters. And then even like post grad, like, what do you do after graduation? Do you go straight into a master's? Do you go straight into a doctorate? That's how I identify myself too, like, just a student. So now that I'm not a student,
Yeah.
what does Julie like to do? Like, what am I
Yeah.
good at?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, totally. It's like you're in that little bubble, like in the college. Because I've been to college and like I wanted to be in college forever. You know what I mean?
right,
Yeah, I'm gonna get a doctor. But then bills started stacking up. I was like,
right,
man, I need to make some money. So and then to try to find it in an area that you like is, it's even more challenging because sometimes like you may do a degree like in, I don't know, something, and there's no demand for it, and it sucks because
right.
it's very difficult to find a job in there. So how are you finding how are you finding that? Like, is it difficult?
Oh, I'm still in the wave.
Okay.
I was just I was on the other end already. I have these conversations with my cousins, my friends all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone sees the post grad pictures and the success that this paper contains, right? Which I am not minimizing at all. It was very hard for me to get a master's.
Hmm.
And so I don't minimize that hard work at all. Like, I acknowledge my drive,
Right.
but I also know, like, this post grad life, it's hard, it's hard because maybe there's some times where I feel like, okay, well, you're still not in the field that you went to school for.
Right.
And how are you actually utilizing maybe your master's degree? How are you actually making a difference? And I think about it all the time. Are you willing to leave home and go find something that is in demand, as far as like um an LCSW. So that's currently where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So once you get your master's, there you have to get your license. It's kind of like a counselor. So your master's does hold weight. Don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
you have to have a license in order to really get a job. And I have
Right.
not. I've attempted it and did not pass it. So I actually take it again May 10th.
Hmm.
But that's what brings you up another notch. And so that's another obstacle that I have
Right.
to kind of work through. And that defeat alone was like the worst. I came home and I was crying.
Oh.
Mom was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No," and she thought I was joking because I play around a lot, and
Uh-huh.
I think I was more mad that she thought I was joking. Like, how dare you? But it's been hard. I'll be honest, just navigating, and then now just solely working. There is no school to fall back on. There is no financial aid to fall back on. All the
Right.
money that I have is the money that I make,
Right.
and that has been a big wake up call, because I will admit I have been sheltered and I was
Hmm.
babied a lot. And so having to figure out the harsh reality of the real world has been a really rude awakening. And also
Hmm.
figuring out, like, what is your next step, Julie? What are you going to do? That I'm still very much in that little hole.
Right. Wow. Definitely being faced with a lot of challenges, I can tell.
At 26.
Yeah, 26. But man, yeah, don't discredit your education at all. Like, I think education is important. And I try to like, I want to teach my kids, like, if you do go to college or some kind of school, make sure that your degree is marketable.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's marketable and you can get a job when you finish with it. So don't discredit that at all.
Yeah. I also,
Yeah.
though, want to acknowledge the fact that, like, even those that do not go to school, like, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like,
Hmm.
we cannot sit here and, like, make ourselves feel superior, right? Like, it's a
Hmm.
matter of using the privilege, because in a sense it is a privilege that I have now, being
Hmm.
able to use it and give back, because I'm the product of working class. I'm the product
Right.
of people who didn't go to school, but they're hard workers, they're great people. So I can't sit here and just sit on a throne either, right? Like, I
Right.
have to acknowledge that. But I also do acknowledge the fact that what I have now is a privilege, me being able to go to school. This
Yes.
was not something that my great grandparents were able to do. And
Yes.
being able to pick up and decide when I want to go to school and what I want to do it in, or, major in. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then because I substitute taught for a little bit,
Mhm.
and when I would go to, like, I went to, I think it was Savala, elementary school. My grandma's area was like in that area, so I went over there and I substitute taught for like a week or something, and I can tell that the kids were like, "Oh, this is somebody like me,"
Yes.
and that's like it's an encouragement for them, and that's what I love. It's like you're showing them, look, you can do something with yourself,
Yeah.
and it's not just your about your surroundings and what everything you see and hear, and,
Yeah.
and that was enlightening for me. Do you get so how do you get that at all when at your
Yes, I'm glad you actually pointed that out because having representation in the classroom
Mhm.
is so important. I didn't realize that till I was in the classroom. Because like growing up, most of my teachers were female, but they were white,
Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong with that. But I never saw myself in any of those
Mhm.
individuals.
Yeah.
And now, like my workplace, I have kids that are, I look very normal to them. And I'll
Yes.
be honest, I go to work sometimes like this in hoodies and hoops and
Yeah.
jeans and probably some Vans if I can get away with it. Sorry about that, Miss Evans. But and if not, it's like slacks and a nice shirt. But for the most part, everyone else looks like me. Tattoos, that's another thing too,
Yeah.
that makes you normal to them.
Yes.
We're talking about a community that most of these teachers that work there went there.
Mhm.
I myself did not go there, but my family did, right? I went to Miller.
Right.
But yes, that is so important. I'm really glad you pointed that out. Just having those relationships because that opens up the door for them to be able to confide in you. And if
Yes.
something like social work is really what I want to do, having the kids trust initially based off of how I'm approaching them and how I
Mhm.
normalize mental health, I think that I will be able to get somewhere with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
that plays a part.
Yeah, like if you don't get a job in that, you can definitely use it where you're at. Like
Yeah.
you can tell them, look, this is this, you don't have this, or this is depression, this is anxiety, this is this, this here's how to help get through that. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool. I remember one time I was teaching, and there was a kid like he was real down, like downtrodden. Like you can tell he was just down. Like he would go home and have a rough, and then he would have a rough at school, and he was just really acting out, not acting out, but you can tell he's real downtrodden. And I was teaching him about writing, right? I was like, look, dude, I said, no matter if you're low or if you're high, no matter where you're at, bro, you're always going to have to learn how to write something,
Mhm.
whether it's on the job or whatever. So you may not agree with your teacher or whatever, but look, you need to know how to write, and like, and when I told him that, and I think he was kind of looking at me because I'm like him, like I'm Hispanic, I have an accent like him and stuff, and he just started, okay, you know what I mean? He started
Mhm.
putting effort into. I was like, yes, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see, mental health. Oh, so did you discover some things about yourself, your mental health, as you were learning about it?
Yeah, of course. There was like a lot of projects we had to do within the program, and of course, our final project was like this major thesis. And I actually used one of my really good friends as my Jane Doe,
Wow.
and she's one of my best friends. I have two best friends. We've been friends since we were in third grade,
Hmm.
and they're practically my sisters. Like I said, I don't have any sisters, but that's the closest thing I could think of when it comes to that.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like I learned a lot about her too and our
Hmm.
relationship in general, right? But being able to identify maybe like where I fall short and how that could possibly affect me one day as a worker in general
Wow.
was like the craziest thing to me because I didn't go into that program thinking that I would learn something about myself. And I was very aware of like past trauma, but I don't think I actually realized how much it affected me as an adult today.
Wow.
And
And
being
you're
able
talking about the mental health?
Yeah, like
Okay.
being able to like learn about it, learn the ins and outs of like social work and like assessment and engagement and planning, the steps that there are when someone essentially meets a social worker for the first time, whether it was willingly or like court ordered.
Right.
Um, being able to use your past experiences and what you know about yourself
Mhm.
is going to help you regardless. And I'm able to somewhat use it. I'm not exactly in the field yet, but I'm able to somewhat use that with like these children and like their behavioral issues or maybe some learning disabilities going on. Being able to like drop it down to their level and meeting them where they are. That's the biggest thing in social work, right? Meeting the client exactly where they are. You don't put too much, you don't do too little.
Well,
So yeah.
that's tough. That's tough because you're not them.
Right, right, exactly. And you're like, how do I think like a 10-year-old?
Yes.
But what
And
would I
it,
do?
yeah, and then you kind of question like, can I really relate to them? Do I really have an experience like them?
Right.
So that's pretty tough, man. So is it so? Um, do kids have resources? Like, is it easy for them?
Yeah, I mean, like, as I can't speak for everybody, but as far as like from my experiences being back home and having the exposure to resources myself,
Right.
um, I actually interned my first year in the grad program at the Colston Wellness Foundation, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
No.
It's off of Holly. It used to be the Colston AIDS Foundation. It's a very good resource.
Hmm.
It's not maybe what you think when you hear it right away.
Right.
They've expanded it from it just initially being a clinic that serviced clients with AIDS. It
Hmm.
turned into a behavioral program. They have a food pantry, a clothes pantry. They provide all kinds of resources, uh, like mental wise, but also like physically wise. Uh,
Okay.
and so I learned a lot there because they have a teen program. So
Hmm.
they have a lot of resources themselves. They have like dances, they have teen night, but it's sort of like discussing mental health, discussing like issues in today's society. Cause like we are
Hmm.
not teenagers in today's society, and none of us really understand or like grasp the idea of what it's like with social media um,
Hmm.
playing such a big part in like how these kids are coming up, right?
Right.
So that's a great resource for kids that I definitely always vouch for any chance that I can, whether it's a kid needing clothes or a kid
Hmm.
needing being paired with a counselor. They're really great. And then I've also worked with New Life Refuge Ministries, which is it's a sex trafficking shelter,
Hmm.
and they have a lot of great resources. Theirs is more faith based, but definitely some resources there for the kiddos under 18. And then, of course, you have communities and schools, which is like a great resource. Our current coordinator at the junior high,
Hmm.
she's amazing. She
Well.
also is a OSO alumni. So that's a different relationship too, right? Like I said, when you have workers that come from the same neighborhood and being
Hmm.
able to put back into it, I think it's just like magic being able to see that, of course.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. It's like teamwork, and it's helping the community grow.
For sure. We actually just did we did a like meat giveaway like 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
So they partnered up with one of the local Catholic churches. I don't remember the name, but it's on Castores, and they like hand select families
Mm.
from the neighborhood to go and do that. So that's really nice too. They have food pantries at least once a month, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just being able to coordinate those, especially to our bilingual, our monolingual speakers, that is the biggest push. Like that is the biggest push for me on my end, because I have such a relationship with these kiddos that I work with on a daily basis. I have kids from Honduras, from Mexico, from El
Wow.
Salvador. And so being able to push those very much same resources to them
Hmm.
and getting their parents more engaged, because we
Yeah.
often find that they're um, a little more skeptical, I guess, of
Right.
certain resources that schools do hold. But being able to create those relationships through the kids in general has been pretty awesome to see.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's very awesome. You're pushing them. That's so awesome. Um, I'm trying. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes here.
It's okay.
So man, that's so awesome. You're helping people that don't speak English. You're giving. It's like you're giving them hope. That's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, no. I being able to work with those kids, it's like it's been a humbling experience for me, right? Like
Hmm.
I grew up very much like low income as well, but I don't think I ever really had thought of it as being like it was a tough situation. It was very
Hmm.
normal to me, but putting in a language barrier, you're throwing in a kid that is not from here,
Hmm.
and being able to just let them know like, hey, someone's here for you. and you're going to be okay if you need help with anything, whether it's academic or not academic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been a really humbling experience for me personally, right? Having a father from Mexico who went up to the third grade
Wow.
and not being able to, maybe pursue that due to whatever reason, right? Because we have a lot of kids that are working, and that's a
Wow.
different experience having to explain that, because it just goes into like the legality part of it. But um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just been really nice. I love what I do. I know that eventually I'm gonna have to branch off and go into the social work field and have that title. But for now, I'm definitely enjoying like what I do. And I know that eventually one day I see myself like licensed and all working with that same population.
Cool. Do you see yourself like maybe having your own practice, or just being in, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, I see myself owning one. I definitely think right now I'm so skeptical of, and I tend to like not think that I'm capable of, but I think it's a combination of things like my imposter syndrome, right? Like where I'm like, no, you can't do that. You're crazy, girl. Or the other side of me is like, who do you think you are? But then the other side is like, no, you can do this. You have the personality for it. You have the paper to show for it. What are you doing self-doubting? But yeah, I can definitely see that happening in the next 20, 30 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Not soon.
Yeah, not so. You just get started. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
like one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
That's cool. Um, yeah. So there's a difference between mental health and social work, or what do you? We spoke earlier. I remember. What were you saying?
Yeah,
There's.
they're essentially within the same, right? Social work is just a title for a role. So their social workers are really meant to help all around those that are considered vulnerable populations. And that can mean something as simple as, well, not simple, but something as housing,
Hmm.
the safety, the food, the clothing, the resources,
Right.
shelter, anything like that. It's aiding and assisting and accommodating those that are considered vulnerable populations. Veterans are a very vulnerable population. Older individuals, right? So there's geriatric social workers.
Right.
There's hospice social workers, which I salute those because that is a job. And then there's I can't think. There's just so many school social workers. There's like nonprofit social workers. You can go so many different directions with that, but nonetheless, you're still making life a little easier as possible, right?
Well,
For those.
awesome. That sounds cool. I think. Is there anything else you want to share? I think that's pretty much everything that we covered that I had
On
on
your
my notes here.
No,
Please
that was it. I earlier you mentioned like
go
how
ahead.
we found each other, I think. I actually came across your page on TikTok, which was so crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I was just scrolling one day, and that's because I was one of those people who was like, I'm not gonna download TikTok. No, man.
Right. Right.
And here I am every day making TikToks myself.
Yeah.
But I came across your page and I was like, hey, because I love hoodies. Like my mom always says I have so many jackets. I do. Like I am a hoodie girl.
Uh-huh.
Even if it's like 100 degrees. I'm like, hoodie, ponle un hoodie. And I came
Cool.
across your page and I was like, hey, it's a Scorpio. Like, so
Yeah.
that's actually, I think, how I messaged you. And you were so awesome that, like, I think I messaged you the
Yeah.
first time that I decided that I was going to get one. It
Yeah.
was right before work.
Yeah.
And so I go in at 8, and I think I texted you at like 7:30, and I had to go to Stripe to go get cash.
Yeah.
And I literally changed in the car of the school, like in the put on the jacket or the sweater. I got the black one.
Yeah.
And I went to work, and I remember everyone was like making fun of me, right? Because I'm always in hoodies.
Uh-huh.
They're like, "Oh, you got a new one?" I'm like, "I just bought it this morning."
That's
And then
funny.
I think the last time I messaged you was to get the white one, but that one I was actually running late to work, so I could not stop. But you were
Oh,
so fast and responsive. Like, shout out to you for like
I
last
appreciate
minute calls.
I appreciate it. I was luckily I'm up early. I usually up early. My son is 2, and he's pretty much a natural alarm clock for me and my wife. So I was awake, and I had to go to work that day, probably like an hour after we had spoke, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, sure, come by, come and get it," and
Yeah,
so
you pulled
yeah,
up in your truck. Like,
yeah,
it was for real. It was so funny because I literally went to work and like changed. Like, it was just.
Yeah.
That morning was ridiculous. And it was actually
Yeah.
one of those really coldest days. It was, I don't know, maybe a month ago or something. But I
Yeah.
just, so funny because I was like, he's not going to respond. And you did. And you sure did pull up.
Yeah, no, I respond pretty fast. Like, and that's not, and that's you're not the only one that does that. I've several other people do. We've met somewhere, kind of here, by the place where we met at, and
Yeah.
so a lot of people think, oh, you just ship. I'm like, no, if you can catch me when I'm off, yeah, come get it. Come pick it up.
You
So
can catch me in the street.
yeah,
I will deliver.
yeah, I put it on my backpack. Here you go. There's one right here.
You're like, hey, you know what? You can have this one I have on,
Yeah,
actually.
here. Yeah. Yeah, I even talking mental health. There's a couple of like homeless guys. When it was cold, I had a hoodie myself.
Mhm.
Stealing off my own supply or whatever. So, and there was a guy at the donut place at the panaderia over here,
Mhm.
and the dude was in a wheelchair. And I was like, dude, here's a hoodie, man. He's a Corpus Christi original. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was
Dude
nice
from
of
Corpus.
you.
And the guy looked at me like I was like, yeah, bro, it's freaking cold. It's gonna get
Is it
cold
free?
tonight. Huh? Yeah, yeah. Because I don't know, because people with mental health are homeless, right? A lot of them are,
Yeah, for
and they
sure.
kind of stay homeless, and it's just I don't. Sometimes they're treated bad, and sometimes I just like to be a light sometimes to them. I mean, I have nothing to give, but maybe just have a conversation with them,
For
uh,
sure.
just
Even
for
like
a moment.
those that are like on the corner sometimes.
Hmm.
Um Being able to like roll down your window and just acknowledge that
Yeah.
they're there, like that goes a long way. I'm not gonna say I hate, but I think it's
Hmm.
just really rude for those that like kind of just,
Yeah. Just
um
kind of avoid, try to scoot up. Yeah.
to you, only because they're still human and we need to acknowledge that like
Yeah.
they're very much still human. And I'm glad you brought up the homeless population because Corpus has a very big one. That was one of our studies in the program,
Wow.
addressing why Corpus has such high homeless rates the way we
Yeah.
do. And we actually went around like the courthouse. We spoke to a few businesses, those bail bond place.
Yeah.
um and some of them were, they had enough empathy, and then there was others that were just like, we closed off our public bathrooms because whatever.
Wow.
And it,
Yeah.
like, what makes you feel like you have the power to take away that from somebody else? Like,
Mm.
nonetheless, we're still humans. We bleed the same blood. Like, I don't know when that shift happened where there was like hierarchies, and there is, right, money wise, financially, like I get that. But
Hmm.
just being able to rehumanize those people, so like you doing that was really nice of you too. I hope you know that.
Yeah, and it's like we can only do it like like we're one person, right? But there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
So that person could have been treated like that by somebody else,
Right.
and it was just kind of like a fresh air. I was down here at the seawall with my kids, and I left my stroller there, and we walked along like to the beach, and my stroller was left back there, and the security guard was like, "Oh, you can't leave it here." I was like, well, I mean, that's fine. I took out my stuff. I can leave it there if I want to, And he was kind of like, well, these homeless guys, they this and that. And I was just like, man, this is a public place. They can walk here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not my problem to, you know, basically try to fend them off or push them off. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of, and like even people in authority, like you said, there's different ranks, and
Mhm.
sometimes people use their authority that in such a way to where it's kind of inhumane toward humans.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I feel
yeah.
like I feel like that too though, like even with the animals, like
uh,
my nickname in my family is like Snow White because and there's a lot of nicknames, but that one in particular because I used to like sneak in animals, or I would like
mhm.
buy animal food and hide it in my room and then like feed them. And then my mom would wonder why they didn't go away. And I was like, I
Mm,
don't like, I really don't know why they're staying around. Even
yeah,
though I was feeding them like on the low. And
right.
so I feel like that with animals, the strays, I'm like, I want to take all of them home.
Yeah, that's the way my wife is.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of neighborhood cats here, and she feeds them, and she taught me to have compassion for them. You know what I mean? When we
Yes.
started dating, because I used to be like, oh, get away.
Yeah.
But they're not humans, they're animals. But it's just like they need the one we have in common, we eat like they do, you know what I mean? They're hungry, and
They're
yeah, definitely.
voiceless. You have
Yeah,
to be able to do that. And
yes.
I don't know. That one's really like that one pulls a certain like little that tugs me certainly because
Yeah.
animals are just so helpless and they really
Hmm.
are depending on pretty much humans to you know take care of them.
Right.
Maybe not all around, but being able to provide certain things that they can't for themselves. And just to see so many, because that's also a big issue here in Corpus. We have so many stray animals
Yeah, there's a lot.
and getting their animals fixed. And it's, they offer free services to that too. It's just a matter of people doing it and
Yeah.
or taking the little mobile trailer to them, which I have seen them do too. I'm not really too involved with that part,
Yeah.
but just things like that.
Yeah, we just had three cats fixed, and we took them to, I don't remember where it was, but it was cheap. It was like
Was it pack?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we took, and because we were gonna take it to a vet, and they're like, oh, $300. I'm like, nah, that's too much. They stay outside anyway. We're just trying to trying to suppress the growth of all the cats out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. Even if we don't feed them, they'll still find like birds, but it's just kind of uh like weird to just kind of push them off. Like if they come up to you, like just push them off.
Yeah.
They're just animals. Like you said.
Yeah. I feel like that with
It's
possums too.
yeah.
People hate possums and they're not gonna hurt you,
Right.
They're actually more scared of you than you are of them. But like their automatic thought is like get a shovel. Like
My wife, we picked up a little baby one. She was like, "Pick him up." I was like,
oh
"Ah." So I picked him up, we put him in a box, and she's like, "Well, let's take him somewhere." We took him to some vet or something. I don't know. It was a
okay.
while back. She
Oh
just wanted to just to help him, to
yeah.
help the animal. I was like, "Man, that's really compassionate for an animal." So it's pretty cool that people care about him like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, animals, what else? Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of something else to say. It's just like a conversation that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing with this podcast. Just having a conversation with people in the city. I was trying sometime in the future I want to try to get maybe like a homeless person on, just to have them talk, you know what I mean? Just to not
Yes.
to make fun of them, but just to trying to just talk to them.
Yeah.
You know
Have a
what I mean? And
conversation.
show people, look, this guy lives in your city too. You know what I mean? and
Hmm.
and I just think that I liked that we can help our city. You know what I mean? It's not like we're helpless to
Yeah.
not help out.
Yeah.
Whether you have a degree or not. I
Right.
mean, it's all good.
Being
I,
able to
I
like give back in whatever way that looks like for everybody,
yeah.
right? Being able to do that, I think that's good. Your platform is able to like bring exposure to normal people that live here, whether they're from here or they're not.
Yes.
Just being able to be like, hey, I'm from here and this is kind of what I do, or maybe this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And because I always say like Corpus is growing. Like when I came back in 2019, there was the first thing I noticed like the restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Um, last week I was at the Loca for Local like vendor show,
Okay.
and like the condos and the townhomes that are down there. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not even in Corpus. Like it just feels so foreign to me, right? Because I know inner city Corpus, but like that
Yeah.
part of Corpus is crazy, and I'm over there trying to move that way. My mom's like, "That's Loca." Like, okay, right. But it's just like it almost feels like I'm not even here anymore. It's just so crazy to me, like how Corpus is expanding. But no, going back to what you were saying, like just
Yeah.
being able to put back in any way you can and whatever that means, whether that's having a conversation with somebody or
Yeah.
just I know your last podcast was with Casa Creations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, she's badass, And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't have any kind of business. Like
Yeah, man, she's awesome, man. When she was real excited and she was nervous, I was like, just you know, and she did it. She was just herself and sharing herself. I mean, it's cool that people can see, hey, she's on a podcast. She's kind of around me.
yeah.
And I think it's encouraging. There's a lot of businesses especially on Instagram, like a lot of creators. I'm like, man, I didn't even know this was here.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah. Have you heard of So Bonita?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Bonita, and then I think her husband, the taco gear.
yes.
Yeah. I was like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I just kind of learned about her this year, I'll be honest. But
Hmm.
it's because a good friend of mine who lives in San Antonio, she owns Very That.
Yes.
And she's a good friend of hers, and she had been posting her in her story. And I was like, is this in Corpus? Allen Center. And I was like, oh Lord. So I had
Yeah.
to go, of course. But
Yeah.
just being and she's someone that also looks like us, and being able to just kind of build a
Yes.
business up from the ground up, I just think that's badass,
Y-
like I haven't done that, but just being able to see people that look like me do so, and do
Yeah.
so like successfully, I think it's pretty cool.
Yes. And all we got to do is go on YouTube or go
Yeah.
find some articles to
Yeah.
figure this stuff out.
Hmm.
That's where I got all, everything that I'm doing for the brand, this thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Got it all online. I tried one before. I tried like one before, and it just didn't work. I was like, man, how do I get a brand? How do I get one and make it successful? And
Hmm.
this one it's starting to gain traction, and I'm starting to understand that it's not it's for the people that it's made for.
Yeah, like
You
who
know
it's
what I'm
for, it's gonna find.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like to post, like, if somebody tags Corpus Christi Originals, hey, that's grounds for you being reposted. I'm gonna put you up there so people can see you.
Hmm.
And when people see you, they relate to you, they're like, oh, cool. And it helps the brand. It
Hmm.
helps it grow. You know what I mean? So, and I want that because I want for our community to grow. I want to grow along with the community.
That's already growing, like
Yes.
just being able to not necessarily keep up,
Right.
but to keep us, people like us, people of
Yes.
color, very much in the loop, and people that are like natives.
Right.
So I think it's cool what you're doing.
Yeah, and then two, there's always money to be made.
Yeah.
There's another Corpus Christi brand that sells shirts and stuff, which is made in Corpus Christi. And I don't know, there could be several others, but my point is, like, they can make money. I can make money too,
Hmm.
doing the same thing. So it's like not just our relationships grow, but the economy. It'll help the money grow. I'm a real, like, financial nerd. I get into stuff like that, and I see how our money, when our money stays local, it helps the economy in
Hmm.
our city. Just it helps the city grow, and then the state, and then eventually the United States. So
Yeah.
anyway, just rambling. I appreciate you listening.
No, no, no.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This is a good conversation.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, we'll try to maybe have you on the future. I'm trying to go, like, maybe the art walk or something.
Ooh.
Yeah, just so I can, just be out there. Because I just sell online and I just meet people.
Hmm.
So maybe just maybe an art walk or something to be a part of the community. Like, hey, I'm out here. You know,
I really thought you were gonna be. I assumed, I guess, at the Loca for Local, because I was like, oh, that you're the first person I thought of.
well,
Um.
local for local. I've never even heard of. I've heard of it, but
Mhm.
not as much as some other things like the farmers
The
market
farmer's
or
market.
or
Mhm.
or the art walk or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty cool that you thought about it. How often does that happen?
I have no idea. I know
Huh.
they happened last year. I think So Bonita was actually in charge of it this year. I don't know
Okay.
about last year. She might have just been she was a vendor there too as well.
Oh, it
But
just happened right
yeah, it was last weekend.
last weekend. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, but that was the first time I had ever been to one. But I heard there was one last year as well. But of course, there's like my mom coughing in the background. So sorry.
It's okay.
There's like farmers markets and stuff, but yeah, I definitely think you should get in on those, just to
Cool.
bring more exposure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. You're not the first person to tell me that. Like, several people tell me, like, oh, maybe
Yeah,
I should. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm just real hard headed. Like, no, no, I'm gonna do it like this. And then when I start hearing from a bunch of different people, I'm like,
You're like, well,
okay, yeah,
no, but
maybe I should.
I am a fan of the way you do it too. Like just out of the truck, like out the back of the troca. Like I am all for that. Like we love
Appreciate it.
that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's growing. I'm growing with the people here, so
Yeah.
I'm glad to say that I can say that, and it's all good.
Hmm.
It's all good. But yeah, appreciate you coming on once again.
No.
It's like a culture, like we say goodbye like 70 different
Yes.
times.
It's like I'm so my mom's in the back, like, waiting. I'm like, "No, no, no, we're going."
Yeah.
Like, 30 minutes ago.
30 more minutes. Yeah, like you stay at, yeah, that reminds me of like my family, because my family is big on my dad's side.
Yeah.
Like a lot of brothers and sisters, and we would always go to grandma's house. Everybody went to grandma's house, right?
Mhm.
And that would happen. It would be like 10 o'clock at night, and they've been saying goodbye since
Yes.
like 9 o'clock. I'm like, are we
Yeah,
leaving it?
wait, let's
Yeah,
go. Like,
yeah. And I do that with my family now. Like, okay, I gotta go. All right, I gotta go.
bro, I gotta go. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes, that's how we are too. Like, I just got to a point because we go to my abuela's every Sunday. We play
hmm,
bingo. That's like our thing. I
yeah.
am a golden girl. I have
Hmm.
been clicked into the Golden Girl gang with my abuela, my tia, my mom, myself.
Right. Do y'all do change? Do y'all do change with the little purse?
Yes, I do have a little very that bag that says pulga money. So I don't know. But we play every Sunday
Uh-huh.
and it got to the point where like me and my mom would go in the same car, right? And so
Mhm.
sometimes I try to leave at 9 because I know I have to go to work on Monday.
Mm.
And I hate waking up late. I hate going to bed late because then I wake up just mad. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten to the point where she gets up, she's like, all right, let's go. And she starts cleaning and, you know, taking out the trash, which is great, right? But it's
Yeah.
like, I don't even get up till I see her by the door. I'm trained. I've been trained for this. So it's funny that like that's really a thing. And like that's us now. We are those people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. It's awesome. That's awesome.
You're like, okay, no, for real now.
Yeah, for real. I'm so yeah, because I try to think of stuff like, yeah,
Like we're
because I
going
was
on an
trying to
outing.
research. I was trying to, because I like to. Sorry, I hit this thing. I try to like research the person that I'm like interviewing.
Mhm.
I was like, man, I mean, there really wasn't a lot of stuff. Like, you have some nice pictures. Don't get me wrong, but I like to find like videos, like like I found a gold mine with who was it? The podcast guest I'm gonna have in the future. He's got a
Mhm.
podcast. So
Ooh.
oh shoot, I could binge. All right, I got these questions here. Uh,
See, that's exciting. I want to start one. Like I had a
yeah,
YouTube channel when I was in college, but it was over like makeup reviews and like being comfortable with our curves. I've never been a smaller girl and just acknowledging that too and like colorism, just conversations like that.
yeah,
But I realized that it was a lot of editing having to like keep up with my appearance and stuff. So I would like to get to a point where I could just have these conversations like this and be very comfortable and
yeah,
not have to edit it. One try and we're done.
yeah.
And I looked into microphones and stuff, but I just haven't been able to like do so. And I have the time now. It's
Right.
just a matter of me finding the energy, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an avenue to, I think of it. Well, of course, it's content, right? The more you got content, and then you figure out ways how that you can make a small stream of income from that. And
Mhm.
then you find your concept. Okay, how can I do this? Because it's difficult for, like, if I do like long form, just me talking, it's not going to be an hour. It'll be like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Good
Because
points.
you know, for one, I don't like to listen to a whole hour long thing on something that I want to learn, that I can learn for 5 minutes on YouTube. You
Right.
know what I mean? And that's the type of content that I want to put out. If I do that type of stuff, there's definitely an avenue for that, to be able to make a stream of income. And it's
Mhm.
easy to get into. Like, you can use like some, who is it? I think Abel, the guy that I interviewed last, Abel Ozuna, he uses Anchor FM.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and you could do it from your phone. I'm like, oh, that's easy,
Yeah.
because like you couldn't be able you weren't able to do that like so many years ago. Now it's just like, the barrier to entry is not as hard as it was back then.
Mhm.
So yeah, more power too if you start one.
I'm gonna invite you.
If
We're
you
gonna
start
we're gonna
one,
reverse the roles.
yeah, yeah, for real, I'll be a guest. There was another, and it's like it's getting like people are finding out about it in Corpus, and I think a lot of people want to do it. And there's actually several podcasts that are out of Corpus.
Oh, I didn't know
Uh,
that.
yeah, I went to the Coastal Bend magazine where they're voting for the best of 2020 or whatever. They have a podcast list. You can select your favorite. Yeah, so there's
Okay.
like maybe 10 podcasters talking about different stuff. In fact, there's a guy who he does Only Wolves. I think it's Only Wolves.
Eric.
Eric, yes.
Yeah. I work out at his gym at the arena.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was mentioning that he was gonna start one, and that if I would be a guest, I was like, heck yeah, be a guest.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, so if you start one, let me know. I'll be a guest.
Yes.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Likewise.
Okay.
We'll talk to you soon. I'll put an outro video and then an intro video. I'll edit it after this, so don't worry about that.
Thanks. You have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.